Salam alaikum, everyone. I want to welcome you to another episode of Zoom In on the Halal Metropolis. I'm here this afternoon with Bilal Hammoud from the Michigan Department of State. He's here today to talk to us about the Commission on Redistricting the state of Michigan for the legislature. So, welcome, Bilal. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I want to say Ramadan Mubarak to everyone out there who's celebrating. And I'm very excited to be here to talk to you a little bit about Michigan's first ever Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. You know, this is the first time in Michigan's history, second time in U.S. history, something like this has existed. So I'm really excited to explain what it is and hopefully open up the opportunity for you and your colleagues to apply.
Awesome. Well, so that's what we're here to learn about. So we know that in Michigan, in statewide elections, the state tends to go for Democrats. There are a few exceptions to this, like the last presidential election, which was a national election, but still where every now and then we vote for Republicans. But if you look at the state legislature, we have this Republican majority. And if you look at the number of our representation in Congress, we also have a Republican majority. So this really doesn't represent the demographics of the state. And it's been very hard for, there's no sort of equality. There's no balance in the way the voting works. There's no balance in the legislature. There's a sense that the legislature doesn't reflect the will of the people here in Michigan. So I think that this redistricting issue is incredibly important. And I would just like to give you a chance to help explain that from the point of view of the government.
Well, you're right. The gerrymandering is that process of cracking and packing districts to divide and separate to give one political party political advantage. Now, in Michigan, the people recognized that gerrymandering was an issue. They were not being represented, funding was being misallocated at that point, and communities were getting disenfranchised. And so in 2018, I'll give you a bit of a history lesson now. In 2018, a ballot proposal was created by and championed by a group called Voters Not Politicians. And they really pushed this through. This was a ballot proposal against gerrymandering, to create an independent commission to draw district lines. Traditionally, district lines are drawn by your representatives. So the state house, the state senate, and Congress are all drawn by the state house, the state senate, and Congress. And so if your state lines are drawn by those who are getting elected, you feel like there's a little bit of bias there. So this commission, second time in US history, was made as an opportunity for independent citizens, those without the bias, those without conflicting interest in the future of Michigan's elections for themselves, but for their community at large, to decide district lines. So in 2018, this proposal was put on the ballot. You may have seen it alongside a ballot proposal for the legalization of marijuana in the state and new voting rights, which is so incredible. Those we could talk about for hours, but we'll stay focused here on the Redistricting Commission. So this was passed, overwhelming support, around 60% voted in favor of this. So what does it mean now? Well, district lines will now be drawn by a commission of 13 individuals. These 13 are comprised of 4 who self-identify as Democrats, 4 who self-identify as Republican, and 5 who self-identify as independent. This is to prevent any sort of bias on this commission. A lot of people take concern thinking that one is going to sway in favor of another, but the way that the commission is written constitutionally, there has to be a supermajority support with every decision that's made. So it's supposed to make it so that no matter what's occurring, there is equal representation and everyone has to come to an agreement. So this commission is an exciting opportunity because it's going to shape how Michigan's district lines for the state house, state senate, and congressional lines are drawn. It's going to really reshape Michigan's future. That's our tagline. #reshape Michigan's future.
Well, I would like, so if you're doing the history lesson, the one thing that I think a lot of people might not understand, and this is a second area in which you as an individual listener here today can have an impact on the future of the districts that represent you. Every 10 years, the United States takes the census and it measures the population. And it measures how many people live in each county and each census tract. And then this is how we figure out how much representation we have in Congress or how much representation each individual community has in the state legislature. And so it's very, very important that you fill out your census form if you haven't already. We need to know who you are. It's not just representational power is determined by the census, but also so many resources that come from the federal government and from the state and local government get distributed based on population counts. So please fill out the census, okay? But secondly, so after the census is taken, that is when, so every 10 years, the state government comes together and looks at these census tracts and redistributes voters amongst them. And yeah, historically in many states, the party that's in power gets to determine what the districts will look like. And it's been kind of a crazy process. So I also do want to encourage people to apply to be on this commission. So I have a couple of questions about that. So I know I've seen some appeals for people from minority communities in particular, and in particular in the case of the work I do and you do, well, the work I do anyway, like the Arab American community or maybe the Muslim American community, to make sure that those communities are represented in the ways in which they're important populations here in Michigan. And there's a little bit of concern that not very many people from these communities have applied to be on the commission, thinking that it's something that might be, you know, not understanding how it's composed, let's put it that way, and that they don't have a chance to get in, or that, you know, maybe their voice isn't, you know, people wouldn't be interested in hearing their voice. But it's incredibly important that people from all minority communities get included in this process. So can you address that?
Yeah, so we can go through the selection steps from start to finish, and that'll hopefully clarify what concerns people might have. So step one, you can write this down, apply. The application deadline is coming up really soon. It's June 1st. So you've got 9 days as of this recording to decide that you want to serve and represent your community. The process of selection is random. So truly, you have an opportunity to be selected. There's an initial phase of a semifinalist pool that will be comprised of 200 individuals, and that pool will be demographically and geographically representative of the state. That means it should look like Michigan would look like according to the 2010 census, and in both the geographic and demographic aspects. So from that point on, the legislator gets to decide to strike up to 5 individuals from the majority and minority House and Senate. So what does that mean? It means up to 20 at that point could be struck for whatever reason that the legislator may decide. So then there's that pool of 180 to 200 individuals, still a random selection. 13 individuals are randomly selected to represent the 4, 4, and 5, as we mentioned earlier, and that's the commission. At that point, the commission will have been decided. This is around early fall of this year, excuse me, and they'll be given the opportunity to meet, set their own schedules, hire and fire staff. You get about $4.5 million of budget to work with here, and as an individual serving, you get about $40,000 compensation. So it truly is giving you everything you could want. It also protects your job. So as if you were doing jury duty, your job is protected by the state, by the Constitution. So if you were wanting to leave your position and come back after serving for about a year, you could do that. If you want to try and work something out alongside your current job, you can try and figure that out with your boss, but your position is protected. And that's a big part of this that I really appreciate in how the Constitution was written. So
is it considered a full-time position?
So that's a great question. We're estimating about 10 to 40 hours a week of commitment will be required. And that's a pretty big range. That's due to the fact that you are constitutionally required as a commissioner. Now we're getting into the responsibilities here, to host 15 town halls throughout the state. So that way you can engage the communities and take in public comment. So if someone thinks their community looks like X, draws a map and gives it to you, that's amazing, right? They're telling you what they think their community looks like. It's just making your job easier as a commissioner and really making the public feel included. So with this era of COVID-19, that may take on a digital form. Again, it's up to the commission to decide. They are their own legislative body. They have a lot of autonomy. So it's going to be up to you to decide what the most efficient path forward is going to look like.
It is really our only chance for making the government here in Michigan more representative of the people and the interests of the people. So I think it's the most important thing. I think when Obama left office as president, he said that this was the thing he was going to give most of his time toward, is helping there be redistricting across the country. So we're very lucky that we have that our population is forward thinking and passed this this legislation last year or 2 years ago now. And we're also very lucky that we have such an activist Secretary of State. So you mentioned before that that you wanted to talk a little bit about some of the new voting rights acts that have been passed in Michigan, and I know this has been on the front page news this very day. So would you say just a few words about that, because we've just got a couple minutes left?
Sure. So Spark Notes of Redistricting, apply, you get $40,000, you serve for about a year, and it's an amazing opportunity. Don't forget to get your applications notarized. It can be done online, redistrictingmichigan.org. Go there, everything's there. On voting rights, you can vote absentee with no reason, which means you can vote from home. Now the Secretary of State has taken the initiative to send out absentee ballot applications to every registered voter in Michigan for the August and November elections. I think that's incredible. It's taking down barriers that exist in voting. It's really trying to expand the electorate in such a positive way. And we're very lucky to have Jocelyn Benson as our Secretary of State to be pushing that through. Not only that.
I know that I'm not sure exactly how this works, but I talked to Rashida Tlaib a few weeks ago. Actually, it wasn't Rashida who said this. It was Rana Elmir from the ACLU of Michigan who reminded our listeners that that you can apply for permanent the right to vote absentee permanently. So this means that you don't have to fill in that voter application, the ballot application every time around. You'll get the ballot automatically. Am I right about that?
No. So a permanent absentee list means that every year or every election, you'll get a absentee ballot application in the mail again. Okay. So this year we're sending out to 7 million. They're about 1.5 million, a little bit more, on permanent lists throughout different clerks in the state. So rather than that 1.5 million getting the applications, the whole state of registered voters is getting that application.
It's getting that this year kind of is a 1-year issue because of the COVID, right? It's not going to be a permanent thing that every election they're going to mail it out to 7 million people.
Who knows? Depends how.
Well anyway, okay. Well, so here's my question is, can I apply for that status online, or do I have to go to the city clerk's office and do that?
So great question. I'll say because of our May elections showing such tremendous results, we saw record-breaking turnouts. We saw that people were, we had done the same exact thing where we sent out absentee ballot applications to the 50 or so counties that had elections for May. We saw about a 23-24% turnout. It's amazing. You can go online to michigan.gov/vote, and there you can check if you're registered, register to vote online, and sign up for your permanent absentee list within your city clerks. So that way it's there. You'll always be getting the absentee applications, and it takes that extra step in civic engagement. Oh,
it totally makes sense. Depending on your work schedule and your health situation, and there's so many factors that go into your ability to get to the polls on voting day. Not to mention the fact that if you're from a low-income district, odds are you're going to have a much longer wait. They don't put the voting places exactly where the population needs them. So this is just it's a great idea for every citizen. My daughter lives in Seattle, Washington, where they vote by mail. Just that's the way they do the votes, and she loves it. And I know that the participation rate there is much higher than it is where people actually have to go out and vote. So I want to really encourage people to do this. Well, we're running out of time. So I want to thank you. I think it's great that you agreed to come and speak to us. And I've learned a lot. And I'm going to put links to the 2 websites that you mentioned on the description for this. So I want you to email them to me really quickly afterwards. But people, you can look at the Facebook page, and you'll see the links to these sites that he mentioned. And I hope that I can tell that you're working from home. So I know that you're staying home this Ramadan. But I hope how has the month been for you?
It's been really nice. Spending time with the family. It gives us an opportunity to stay together, really feel the Ramadan spirit, and cook a lot of great food.
Yes, we've been cooking too, and washing dishes. It's the thing that goes with the cooking. Yeah, I've only been to Dearborn once this Ramadan, and I will admit, I went and got food somewhere, and I noticed that I was the only person not wearing Nike slides. It just tickled me. Anyway, Ramadan Kareem, thank you very much for talking with us.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sally. Ramadan Mubarak, everyone.